It's a little bit late, but over here we had tsunami warnings, earthquakes in nearby, and it's been quite a week. So I'm a little bit late with my wrap up, but I still wanted to talk about some of the books that I read this month. Now, fortunately, I was able to review all of these books that I'm going to talk about in this video. So as I'm talking about these books, I'm going to have a little card that will pop up on the top of the screen, and you'll also have the links in the description box down below if you want more details and really my feelings as soon as I finish those books. There are full reviews with all my thoughts, all my feelings, and why I feel the way I do about these books. Let's get the 1-star out of the way, and this is The Business Trip by Jessie Garcia. If you remember, I uploaded a video about my most anticipated January releases, and this is as far as thrillers, and I started reading with some early copies that I got through NetGalley, and oh my goodness, how disappointing this first book was. Again, I'm going to have a full review that will be on the top of the screen, but The Business Trip by Jessie Garcia was a 1-star book for me, and it was only solely because of the writing style. It was very wordy, very lengthy, very rambly, and at the end we were kind of missing the point of the story because she decided to go or overextend details that really didn't add anything to the story. So for me, that's one of the ways I can tell that this is not a book that is not only not for me, but it wouldn't be a book that I'd recommend to anybody, and that's why it was a 1-star. Now let's switch it up a little bit and let's go to a 5-star review on Goodreads, and this is The Parents Weekend by Alex Finley. If you've been on my channel for any period of time, you know that Alex Finley is one of my favorite authors, at least for thrillers. He puts together such an intricate and incredibly put together puzzle that you start down here, and then once you start finding the pieces, the story makes so much sense, and at the end you can see the full picture. That wasn't really, at least in my brain, what I expected from the story, with the twists and everything that happened in between. His books are action-packed, and if you want more recommendation, I'm going to leave a couple of videos down below that you can check out, and hopefully I'll give you some idea of what I like on a thriller. Now, the premise of this book is Parents Weekend, where the parents of at least 5 freshmen that we're going to follow in this book are going to get to Northern California where their kids are studying, and they're going to spend a weekend, or at least that's the plan. But the first night when they're going to meet for dinner, the kids never show up. And remember, these are freshmen, so they're about 18, 19 years old. So they don't think anything of it in the beginning, and they think that they're maybe partying or doing something. But the next day, when nobody can contact them, they soon realize that they all went missing at the same time. What happens in this book is action-packed. There's a one storyline, main one, but there's so many little stories that will have their conclusions soon after. It keeps you wondering, short chapters, really engaging. It makes you want to read another chapter and another chapter and another chapter, multiple POVs, but in my experience with this book, it's very easy to follow along because he does such a great job kind of identifying people either by what they do or whose parents those are, or it's just wonderful. It really scratches my itch in the brain, and I would definitely recommend this one. Now let's talk about the other 1-star book. It may be a 2. I'm debating between a 1 and a 2. And it's only because the writing is amazing, but the problem is the theme of this book. And this is Gillian Flynn's Sharp Objects. Now, I heard nothing but amazing things about her books before, But as soon as I started reading this book, it really put me in a super dark place where I did not want to be. And this is not about, you know, I was going to do something or it made me depressed or anything, but reading the way that little girls are portrayed in this book, it really is one of those places where I don't want to be. If this is the way that other people believe that middle schoolers are in the world today, it's okay. I mean, to each their own. And if this book was amazing to you and you enjoyed it, to each their own. I'm just sharing my personal experience with it. And it really, I felt yucky reading this book. The description of how these girls were over sexualized by every single adult that you read in the story, it put me in such a dark place, and it kind of reminded me a lot of what's happening in Hollywood today, and a lot of the allegations and a lot of the things that have been proved that happen. And I really don't need to have this in my brain. The beliefs that women act a certain way because that's the only way that they can get away with stuff, or that they can get whatever they want, when, you know, in my humble opinion, that's not it. And this is through the eyes of the characters in general of this book. So for me, again, I felt yucky. I felt like this is not what I need to have in my brain, and you may enjoy it. I just didn't. The next one is another 5-star, and this is a short story that is already out, and the name of the book is The Answer Is No by Fredrik Backman. You need to read the story. I think it's 68 pages, but there are going to be 68 pages that you just either get it, love this book, and made your day, or you just don't get it, and Fredrik Backman is not for you. Again, I do have a full review of why I love this so much, so I'm going to have a link on the top of the screen. This story takes place in an apartment building where something shows up. And they're investigating who put it there, why, and the consequences that that person needs to have because of that. Now, this is such a short story, and I kind of went over the parallels that I was able to draw for myself based on this story. But I think this is one of those stories that once you read it, it will click in your brain in a different way of what it did to mine, because you can interpret the story in so many different ways. But I think that it was not only funny because I was laughing out loud for most of this book. There is a scene where Facebook groups show up, and that's the scene that I cannot stop thinking about. They show up at this apartment building, and who they were and how they were used against. It was so funny to me. And again, you may read it and think it's nothing as spectacular, and you know, that's how you know that maybe his writing is not for you. But if you enjoy Fredrik Backman, his humor, his way of including social issues and things that are happening today in our world in a book, and makes you think, you probably will love this one. Now let's talk about a 3-star book I had this month, and this is the last one at the wedding. And I have it here because I am going to unhaul it, and you'll see that in another video that I'll probably film tomorrow. But this is the last one at the wedding. I do have a full review. Go check it out if you're interested. This is the new Jason Rekulak release. It starts with a dad getting a phone call from his daughter that is inviting him to her wedding. Now, they haven't talked in about 3 years. Something happened that broke that relationship, and now the dad is really excited to hear that she wants him back in her life. He soon after received something in the mail about the husband-to-be, and he met him already, so he's already suspicious about the husband-to-be. However, they're gonna have this fancy wedding at this resort that they bought. It used to be a summer camp, and it's she's marrying into this powerful, super rich family that she actually works for their company. So they go to this wedding, something happens, and nothing is what it seems. I just gave it a 3-star because if I have to sum things up, the ending was ridiculous, and even the book throughout it made me want to come back and continue to the story, but I didn't like the main character that everybody loves so much. I thought he was mean. I thought he was a bully to a little girl. I didn't understand the meaning of the little girl in the entire book because when you think about the last one at the wedding, I was thinking about something completely different of what it was. And I just did not care for the story. In the end, there were so many twists and so many outrageous things that happened that, you know, you're like, and I still have 50 more pages and I still have 20 more pages. Like, it was just too crazy. And believe me, I love outrageous endings, outrageous twists at the end, but I don't think I can do more than one. If something crazy happens at the end, okay, you know, it may not make sense, but it will be satisfying to me. But when you throw everything but the kitchen sink at the end, I feel like I'm just like, okay, now what? Now what? That was my feeling. So one, I definitely pass it on because I know a lot of other people enjoy it more than I did. Now, the next 3-star is Sleep Tight. And this is the story of a Father Silence who was sentenced to death because he was found in a house with, I don't remember how many, but over a dozen bodies of kids and one that got away. Now, the arresting officer is waiting years later, I think this is 20 years later, for the day that he is going to be put to death. Now, the next day, that same officer is found dead, and we learn about his daughter, who has her own family, and she's also a detective, and her daughter goes missing at the same time. So she not only loses her parents, but also her daughter, while she's in the middle of this separation of her husband. Now, up until this point, we have no idea what kind of investigation this was going to be. I thought it was more about the daughter trying to get to the bottom of things, but this was a full-on police procedural. You know, I just don't care for that. I know there's people that don't mind it, and there are some cases where it's done in a way that it's not so formal, but I did think that this was like a lot of struggle between, you know, conflict of interest because she was the daughter and she's the mom of the girl that disappeared, but she's also working in this investigation, and the police chief and who's sending them and where they're going, and, you know, they have to wait for the judge and all those things that I didn't care about. The other thing I didn't care is that it covers a lot of religious issues and mental health in a way that I just think is overused, the mental health thing, and that you have to really be careful the way that you portray that, because you could be given the idea that it's something different that the mental illness is today. And I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to ruin this book for you. The other thing I don't like is the religious part of the story attached to this. There's almost a recreation of a part of the Bible, again, trying to be vague, and I just didn't care for that. I don't find that creepy. I don't find that scary. I don't find that and you know, you kind of have to know the background and a lot of things to try to portray it in a way that makes sense, and it didn't make sense to me. So I thought it was well written. That's why it's a 3-star, and I thought it was interesting, and it kept me coming back to the book. However, because of those reasons, I just didn't enjoy it as much as other people, and I'm happy to report that this will be donated. Now let me finish this wrap up with The Sandown Motel. This was a 4-star and a really fun story. This is a story that is told in 2 different timelines. One is Viv, that in 1982 she was trying to move to New York, and she got, by mistake, and you'll have to read the story if you want to know how it happened, she got this job at the Sandown Motel as a night clerk. Really random things, and inexplicable things, maybe paranormal things, started happening in that motel, and one night she disappeared. Now we go to 2017 when her niece loses her mom. She gets some money out of it, and she decides to take a break from school to go investigate what happened to her aunt that she never met. And what happens as she's there is not only that she gets the night shift, clerk position as her aunt did, but she's also starting to meet all these people that knew her aunt, and apparently the same things that were happening to her aunt is now happening to her. So by the end, both timelines will come together and will tell you how the story ends. I really did enjoy it. I thought it was great. If you enjoy a tinge of supernatural on things, in the beginning it was very much the focus of the story, the supernatural side, but then in the end it turned into an investigation by the niece and not really the police, and having to face all these different people that the aunt knew, but now they're saying that they never had a relationship with her. So it's just kind of crazy, but definitely recommended, and I want to read more books by Simone St. James. I thought this one was great. Anyways, there's more books that I've been reading in this month of November, but they're going to be part of my next video or one that you'll see soon. And it's about my challenge, Read It or Ditch It. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you what I read and what I'm going to have to get rid of next time on that. So these are not all the books that I've read in the month of November, but this is a big part, and stay tuned for the rest. If you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.